Over the past year, Roblox has released 6 events, all similar to each other and different to any other event Roblox has put out. Instead of egg hunts within one experience, this new genre of events featured a new type of hunting, where players would go into a wide variety of different games and complete each of their quests. Starting with the Hunt First Edition, this series of events has widely been considered a failure, yet Roblox continues to do them anyway. It almost seems like every entry is worse than the last. However, the newest installment to the series might be the biggest and possibly best one yet. The Hunt Mega Edition features 25 different games to find and collect tokens in to win avatar items. In every other event, speed was never a factor. There was no real incentive to get a good time and get on the leaderboard. Although, this time around, things were different. The top 10 fastest players in this event would be flown out to Roblox HQ for a chance to win $1 million. However, unlike most people who are interested in the grand prize, I was more interested in the event itself. So, I decided to rank all 25 games in the Hunt Mega Edition, from worst to best. For those of you who didn't play the event, the collectibles are split into 2 types, regular tokens and mega tokens. Regular tokens were simple 5 to 20 minute quests that introduced players to the game and were generally pretty easy. In fact, they were so easy that I was able to collect all of them in a single day. A lot of people kind of brush over these tokens, but I want to go over them anyway because this is probably the only part of the event that most people played. For most of the games, I won't be spending too much time talking about them because I still want to focus more on the main highlight of the event, mega tokens. These were much more difficult and in-depth, and instead of having a guide on how to complete them like the regular tokens, these quests were hidden, usually requiring you to find a secret room or solve a puzzle. On top of all this, all of the mega tokens can only be collected in a specific order, so if a quest was bad, there was no way to skip it. This is especially bad if the third mega token of 25 is easily the hardest one in the event, but we'll get back to that. There were a lot of other extra steps, but for the purposes of this ranking, and to avoid confusion, I'm going to ignore everything besides the games themselves. Anyway, with all that out of the way, let's begin with number 25. Pet Simulator is infamous for being a pretty lazy cash grab, so I expected it to place in the bottom 5 even before the event started. This game uses manipulative tactics like pay-to-win, RNG, and real money gambling, yes this is real, to get people, especially kids, as addicted to the game as possible. Along with this, it's also generally a pretty low-effort game, with the vast majority of the gameplay being to sit there while your pets collect coins and make fun noises. The regular token was underwhelming, to say the most. All you had to do was beat a Tier 2 raid in their St. Patrick's Day event, which was already there before the hunt. Nothing else special was added for the quest, so I'm sure they put a total of 5 minutes of effort into this. To do this, all you had to do was, you guessed it, sit there while your pets collected coins and made fun noises. The Mega Token, while it does have a bit more effort put into it, this was quite possibly the worst puzzle design I have ever seen. The first step is to beat a Tier 16 raid, which when beaten gives you a mysterious key item. Why Tier 16? I don't know. Confused? Me too. With this key, you can now click on a random door in the raid area to access a prompt, and if you type in knock knock, it gives you access to a special gold room. Now, despite being a stupid and boring step, it is still the best part of the puzzle because the key's item description references a knock knock joke. Anyway, now that you've accessed the gold room, the next step is to click on random parts of the wall that spell a completely unrelated word. What? Some of the little crystal bits in the blue room vaguely look like letters which can spell the word Gunter, which is a reference to Ready Player One. I couldn't find any sort of hint that this is what you were supposed to do at all, except maybe these tiny letters throughout the raid area, but even then, this is really stupid. Worst of all, there is absolutely zero click indication telling you that what you're doing is correct. It is impossible to know whether you're doing it right or if you messed up somewhere along the way. After doing this and going back to the gold room, you see a pot of gold appears in the middle, but it tells you that you're not lucky enough when clicked on. What do you think this means? I'll give you a minute to try and guess. That's right, obviously you have to click on every single clover in the raid area growing out of the ground with, again, zero click feedback. How did this get in an official Roblox event? How did anyone figure this out?
Oh yes, now I know how to get that Titanic pet I've been wanting. Yes, this is all the luck I need.
And that's it. After clicking the stupid clovers and the stupid crystals on the wall, you get the Mega Token. Oh, and did I forget to mention that this game practically ruined the most dramatic part of the event? Basically, each section of Mega Tokens was locked behind a sort of time gate, meaning that every section was unlocked for everyone at the same time. Getting on the top of the leaderboard between each time gate wasn't really useful at all besides a small head start for the next section, so getting to the top then wasn't as important. However, the final section was easily the most intense one because this was where the final rankings would be determined, choosing the top 10 people to get flown out for the chance to win $1 million. And Pet Simulator happened to fall in the final section. So, as the entire community was freaking out trying to solve this awful puzzle, a few groups managed to somehow find the solution and get really far ahead of everyone else. By the time the solution to Pet Simulator was leaked, around 200 people had already finished all of the other games, ruining the chance of anyone else getting a spot on the leaderboard and causing a lot of chaos in the process. I'm done talking about this. I never want to see this game again. This is one of those games that kind of makes me wonder what the standards were to get into one of these events. Is it based on popularity, genre, or anything at all? This game was in the original hunt last year and it had a kind of decent quest, so I kind of get why it got in this time around, but it did not hold up as well. The entire quest for the regular token is just to complete one Crossy Road minigame, which takes less than 3 minutes if you don't mess up. However, like Pet Simulator, the regular token isn't the reason this game is so low on the list. It's the mega token. For this one, you'll have to find 4 hints, one in each of the 4 main classrooms, and do certain tasks in that room. In the science room, you're supposed to get a cup of coffee and drink it, which is hinted at by the chemical compound for caffeine on the whiteboard. Next, you have to use the black light given to you to reveal 2 different drawings, one at a playground and one at the history room, and hold up a sign saying 247. I couldn't really find why this is a thing, but I don't know. Then you have to go into the music room and type in keys to spell dead on the piano. Again, no idea why. Finally, in the math room, using the hint pizza on a keyboard, you have to go all the way across the map to pick up a pizza and place it on top of a calculator. After doing all of these arbitrary tasks, you unlock a mysterious basement room where the last step is to fart on a pipe, which makes the pipe explode? What were they on when they made this? The final boss, if you can even call it that, is just another Crossy Road minigame, but this time with something chasing you. After that, you can pick up the token. I think the puzzles were actually kinda well made here, but my issue with it is that nothing really worked well together. I think separate puzzles to unlock one thing can be done well, but the hints were really obscure and in weird places. Along with this, the solutions themselves are super specific, like holding up a sign saying 247 or putting a pizza on top of a calculator. The flawed puzzle design, along with the lack of fun gameplay, makes this a pretty low point for the event. Clip It is basically the Roblox equivalent of TikTok, which basically means that this game has no gameplay besides watching poorly edited shorts. Obviously, due to the lack of anything in this game, the quests were pretty awful. The regular token had you fully watch 20 of these shorts. Each short on average is about 30 seconds each, which means that you had to watch these for 10 minutes, which is about 10 minutes more than I wish I had to. You also had to edit and publish your own clip, which takes like 2 minutes, so it was more filler than anything. The mega token was a little bit more interesting though. In this game, you have the option to film your video in a variety of different locations and outfits. The mega token had you solve 5 riddles to determine what specific location to travel to and what outfit to wear in that area. Getting to the location was easy, but the outfit was the annoying part. The hint was really vague, usually only describing one visual aspect of it or one color, which doesn't really narrow it down that much. Also, the first hint had an outfit that was only visible if you clicked a menu and scrolled down to click a specific button, which is not on by default, which is kinda weird. I would have placed this lower than Bayside High School because most of the quote-unquote gameplay is just scrolling Roblox TikTok or filtering through potentially hundreds of items, but the only thing that saved this game from a bottom 2 placement is the fact that it is the only game in the event to have a given puzzle for the mega token instead of something hidden. I think it makes the whole puzzle a bit more interesting because I'd much rather be solving riddles than wandering around the map looking for the riddle to solve. Either way, it's still F tier, but at least it's something. Pressure's quests were easily the longest and most difficult ones of the entire event. Even the regular token takes longer than most of the megas. The regular quest was to complete a 40-room exploration of an abandoned underwater construction site with a very similar vibe to Doors. However, the main difficulty of this quest comes in the monsters, coming in 3 types. First, the locker guy, who will occasionally give your screen a small shake and pink glow, alerting you to hide in a locker until it leaves. If there's no lockers nearby, then sucks to suck because you instantly die. Second, the concrete monster, who will randomly spawn behind you and try to attack you, and also scare the absolute shit out of you. Lastly, the main event, the Crooked. The Crooked acts as a sort of weeping angel type monster, who will only chase you down if you're not looking. This guy also follows you throughout most of the entire game, and you have to watch your back at all times, while also making sure you're not about to get jumped by the concrete guy. They also act as a good indicator for when to hide in a locker, because if the locker guy is about to attack, then the Crooked will also hide in a locker. All of these monsters result in a pretty difficult quest, especially for newer players like myself. The mega token, however, was even harder. To unlock the new secret area, you had to first find a few codes and unlock a decryption device, which wasn't that interesting, and rebeat the 40-room adventure, this time also finding 5 radios to get symbols, which can be entered into a secret keypad in one of the last few rooms. After doing all that, you begin the final test. This is another similar challenge, this time with 10 minutes to collect 30 intensity tokens scattered across the randomly generated rooms, all of this with the crooked following you. Every few tokens you collect, you add more and more things that make it harder to play. After collecting 7, the locker and concrete monsters also begin to spawn. After 15, you now have an oxygen tank and must fill it up with oxygen refillers that appear very rarely. After 22, lava is poured along some of the pathways, meaning you both have to be looking at the crooked and watch your step. If you manage to complete this, you can collect the mega token. All around, this quest was really high quality and managed to stay interesting all the way through. Now, at this point, you might be wondering why I ranked it this low. It's not because of the difficulty, it's because of the flaws. This quest might look amazing, but playing it became extremely tedious after a while. There were a lot of small gameplay inconsistencies that made a lot of mistakes feel really unfair. For example, if you are being attacked by the concrete monster while the crooked goes and hides in a locker, you barely have any time or indication to hide before you're insta-killed. Along with this, a lot of times the crooked would move towards you and even sometimes attack you when you were looking straight at it. I also managed to get killed after completing the final test via the locker guy spawning right as I collected my last intensity token. There are a lot more examples like this that I don't have the time to cover, but all of these issues built up to become a really annoying experience, especially because every time you fail, you have to go back and restart the entire thing. All of the inconsistencies, difficulties, and length unfortunately make Pressure one of the worst games in this event. Metro Life's quest is the most boring one of the event. This game was actually in the Hunt First Edition, and I'm honestly baffled it got in again because its quest last year was to just walk around in a hot air balloon for like 10 minutes. Unsurprisingly, this year's quest was almost no different. Instead of holding W for 10 minutes in the sky to collect orbs, you get to hold W for 10 minutes on the ground to take pictures. That is the entire regular quest, and the Mega Token isn't much better. You have to go to the mayor, who talks about some sort of secret time capsule that you need to find, but to get it, you'll have to help 3 different people around the map. The tasks are really basic, like cutting a branch of a tree or finding a cat in a hotel. Afterwards, you get a map of where the time capsule is hidden, but to unlock it, you need to find 4 numbers in each corner of the map. For some reason, the markers telling you where the numbers are isn't even fully accurate, which is really misleading. After finding the numbers, you can open the time capsule and get the Mega Token. This entire quest was basically just holding W, looking around for numbers, and doing other arbitrary tasks that have no meaning besides filler. Boring all around. When I first saw the thumbnail for It Girl, I was immediately reminded of Dress to Impress, but assumed it was some sort of different type of fashion game. When I joined the game, I realized that it really is just a direct copy of Dress to Impress. The gameplay, the models, and the GUI all look the same. It's really weird how Roblox decided to choose this way less popular ripoff instead of the real thing. The similarities continue when we look at the quests. The regular token requires 3 different tasks. Play 2 games, get 25 hearts, and give 30 hearts. Getting 25 hearts would have been difficult, but the thing is, if everyone is only playing this game to complete the quests, then everyone is giving each other 5 hearts to finish their own quests, so getting the hearts is really easy. The Mega Token, though, is where things get a bit more interesting. Instead of simply making an obby or race like Dress to Impress did in their previous events, It Girl made a separate story, investigating robots that are controlled by human souls that have gone rogue. The main gameplay here is walking around and exploring the different rooms to find different bits and pieces of several miscellaneous items. The progression is actually pretty decent, but my issue with that is that the entire thing feels so repetitive. All you do is look around and find things, to use it on another thing, to find another thing, and so on and so forth. I feel like this could have been done better, but just walking around mindlessly isn't fun. After finishing this collectathon, you gain access to the main core room where the bots are managed. Something funny I noticed is that the main scientist who led you here supposedly passed out due to radiation upon entering this room, but the player is completely fine. Anyway, to fix the robots, you have to take down this heart via the easiest boss fight I've ever played. Every 25 health lost, you have to do a small minigame on a computer, but like everything else in this quest so far, the minigames are so pathetically easy. After breaking the heart, the scientist person revives themselves somehow and gives you the Mega Token. Both of these games' quests are weird, easy, and kind of just had no continuity. Are you guys ready to hear what natural disaster cooked up for the regular token quest? I bet it's gonna be a great one! Oh. Yep, that's it. And like Metro Life, the Mega Token is barely any better. There's an NPC in the front of every map who tells you to find the secret base of the lobby in the hopes of unanchoring him. The secret base has 4 maps and buttons on each of them that display different disasters happening. If you talk to him on all 4 of these maps and input whatever disaster he was talking about on each map, the light will turn green. If you talk to him one last time after doing this, he gets hit by a meteor and drops the Mega Token like you when you get blown up by a creeper in Minecraft. There's no unique gameplay for either of these quests besides just playing the game itself. If there wasn't a Game Pass to vote for a map, this game honestly would have been in the bottom 3, but even then, this kinda sucked. Eat the World has a really cool idea and concept, but turns into a boring, repetitive simulator on execution. The whole gimmick is that you can pull out parts of the map to eat it and gain power, but all you really do is just spam click, and the same logic applies to its quests. All you need to do for the regular token is feed this noob guy a bunch of food, which only takes about 10 minutes, but again, all you're really doing is clicking. The mega token has a few extra steps, starting with finding a hexagon imprint somewhere in the lobby. After pressing the button, you can do a Simon-style game in the menu for the regular token, which will open up a crack in a random wall. Inside the cave is an egg, which when fed to the noob, freaks him out and teleports you into a separate place. Finally, you have to walk all the way to the mega token while egg explosions destroy your path. It's a cool idea, but you have so much time to avoid the explosions, and it's not really intense at all because it's practically just walking, except for this last stair part, which can get a little difficult. After this, you can get the mega token. I guess this quest was fine, but it all felt so random. Like a few of the other games I've covered so far, the steps to completing the quest had no connection whatsoever, and it felt more like doing a bunch of random minigames instead of an actual thought-out quest. It was still easy either way, but I wish it did something more interesting. This is definitely the game of all time. We're at the point of the list where the games aren't necessarily bad, but not really good either. The regular token for Basketball Legends is to win a 1v4 game against an AI. He's pretty hard to beat if you're new, but since there's 3 other people to help you, the AI really has no chance. The mega token is exactly what I would expect from this game, which is not a good thing. Basketball Legends was also in the games event, and in that ranking, it landed 40th place out of 50 games. Basically, you have to go into the Hall of Fame in the practice area and press a lever to reveal 3 patterns around the map, each having a shape and a number. These shapes are also found on a practice court in the corner of the map, and the numbers tell you what order you have to shoot in. After shooting the 3 hoops in a row, you're sent to another NPC game. To beat him, you just have to get more points than they do, which isn't really that hard, and after that you can claim the token. I have nothing to say about this one. It really was just a nothing burger of a quest. I feel like Rivals is one of those games that always has thousands of players on at a time, but you almost never hear of anyone who actually plays it. This game's regular token follows the same path that a tutorial questline would. You start by talking to a silly chicken guy who gives you 2 simple tasks: finish a 1v1 and kill 5 players in a 2v2. I don't think anything interesting happened while I did this because that's all I wrote in my notes. Anyway, the mega token is way worse than the main quest. First, you have to find this secret room in the training area, which the chicken guy does not like. He gives you another thing to do, but for some reason the requirements are hidden? It's not like it's easy to accidentally find either, because you have to kill 15 people on specifically this map and specifically in a 3v3 match. Even though other people were also doing this quest, getting enough people to play 3v3s on that map took really long. After finishing that, you could talk to the chicken guy once more to do a boss fight. There were 2 options for bosses you could fight, but they were both pretty much equally difficult. I wouldn't consider myself bad at shooter games, but I wouldn't consider myself good either, so I don't know if this is just a skill issue, but these bosses were really annoying. The easiest and most consistent way to whittle down its health was by hiding behind a pillar and peeking out for just a second to get a few hits in, over and over again. This entire segment also had no background music, so the entire thing felt really awkward. I think this game had a lot of potential, but it missed the mark in terms of its puzzle design. If you didn't know, Blade League is made by the same group who made Blade Ball, and considering Blade Ball's track record for these quests, I was expecting something pretty bad. Oh, it's by the same guys who made Blade Ball. That's awesome. However, although both quests were basic, they were surprisingly enjoyable. The regular token was just like Rivals, basically just making you do a few beginner tasks. The mega token was also really simple, just having you find a few colored numbers around the various maps to then put them in a code pad at spawn. After doing that, you're sent to another 1v1 against an AI, but this guy is a complete cheater. He moves significantly faster, is over twice as tall, has overpowered abilities, and hits the ball harder. It's doable once you figure out ways to get past this really good AI, but it takes a lot of trial and error, which can be annoying since you have no real guide unless you look it up. This is the entire mega token quest, and although it is really simple, it's definitely better than the trash they made for the other events. Chained is one of those stupid 2-player games you find plaguing the Roblox trending page. Unlike a lot of the other ones that need little to no cooperation, this game ties the 2 players together with a chain, needing both players to communicate really well. The regular token for this game introduces a different map to complete, and I was lucky enough to have a friend to do it with me, who you've probably seen a lot throughout the video so far. I'm sure climbing this mountain would have been much more annoying if I had to pair with a 6-year-old with 2000 ping. The chain physics were really janky, but the obstacles were really easy, so it didn't really matter. The Mega Token builds off of this mountain with a secret, longer obby hidden inside a cave. Unfortunately, because entering the cave sends you to a different place, you can't actually choose who you end up pairing with. Normally, I would be much more annoyed by this, but because this was after pressure, people who have gotten this far are much more likely to have a brain. This whole lobby has practically the same gameplay to the regular token, albeit a little harder. The only sections I would consider interesting is the small button hunt near the end and this annoying memory luck-based section. It was still decently fun to go through, but it definitely could have been much better. Drive World manages to be one of the most boring games and one of the most interesting games at the same time. This game's regular token quest was to just beat 4 basic obbies. It's not like this is an original creation either, because both the games and the Hunt First Edition also had this exact same quest. Like Chained, you can't really go wrong with obbies, so it still holds up pretty well anyway. On the other hand, the Mega Token was a lot more interesting. Firstly, you have to push this UFO piece all the way across the map, which is really annoying, especially because the ball physics are really floaty. After depositing the bow in the UFO building thing, you need to visit 4 UFO crash sites around the map for a symbol and a number. These symbols are found at a code lock near the building site, and the number tells you what digit the symbol is. Once inputting in the correct code, you get the Mega Token. The entire thing was really just driving around the map and nothing else, but doing that is surprisingly fun. Definitely deserves its spot in the exact middle of the list. If I was a more competitive player in the earlier stages of this event, I'm sure this game would have placed in the bottom 3. The regular token quest was just as basic as almost every other game so far, being to get 200 points. What are points? How do you get them? I have no idea, but I got them all after about 15 minutes, and the game itself is pretty fun. However, the zombies in this game are way too overpowered, to the point where winning as a survivor is nearly impossible without glitch abuse. This might be by design, or just a skill issue, but as a rookie player, this felt really weird. Unfortunately, the Mega Token is not nearly as good as the regular. To activate the challenge, you need to find a pair of goggles somewhere in the map, which will spawn letters above every player's head. These letters can spell out the word Mega, and you can collect these letters from people by doing enough damage. The letters have to be collected in the right order, which is really annoying since you have to keep avoiding doing damage to people to not collect the wrong letter and ruin your streak. This is pretty bad as is, but when the game's Mega Token was first released, it was so much worse. You would have had to spell out Mega Hunt in just 1 round, which is not nearly enough time, and every time someone managed to do it, everyone else's progress would reset. On top of this, the letters would change every few seconds, making it much more difficult to get the right one. Imagine this, with half of the server trying to get the Mega Token and half of the server trying to play normally, and you get a complete disaster of a game. I'm sure this would have placed much lower if I had to deal with this game before the nerf, but this is my list, and I'm glad they changed it in the first place. Hell's Kitchen is weird. It's such a unique Roblox experience that I really didn't know what to expect getting into it. And now that I've played it, I still don't know how to feel. The regular token quest was just like most others, acting as a simple tutorial to the game, this time having the player cook 5 good quality meals. The timing to get one of these is pretty easy as long as you have a brain. The Mega Token quest started with a hidden pattern on the roof of the main playing area, which could be inputted into a grid of TV screens in a secret basement area in the lobby. After inputting in the right code, a door will open, and there's a quick, boring obby for a new quest to find 4 pieces of a secret recipe. The placement of these pieces is really well done, with each one being in a different place. One in the main lobby, one in the cooking area, one in the intermission area, and one in the dinner area. After finding these pieces, you get to use this recipe to cook beef Wellington and present it to the judges. Finally, you can return the secret recipe back to the basement where it belongs, but you're stopped by the evil secret food critic? Oh, never mind, he just talks to you and then you get the token. I don't know why they added this weird secondary plot of some secret guy who wants to steal the recipe because you only see him twice and he has maybe 3 lines of dialogue. Despite this, I like the simplicity and variety of this quest. It was probably the only game in the event that had you rejoin multiple different places at different times, which kept the quest interesting. I still don't really know how this game got to be in an official Roblox event, but at least it wasn't bad. When I played this game for the games event back in August, I ranked Untitled Boxing Game number 46 out of 50 for its difficulty and repetitiveness. For this event, Untitled Boxing Game didn't really learn from their mistakes. Back in the games, you had to fight 3 different bosses with very difficult AI, which wasn't beginner-friendly at all. Now, this game's regular token is to fight 2 different bosses with very difficult AI. The gameplay of the boss is so similar to the games that I'm honestly convinced that they just copied the code. Even the coach who gives you the quest is the exact same. The Mega Token is really unique, and is why the game is placed as high as it is. There's a weird rope on a random invisible barrier which you can climb to find a terminal. You can play a small minigame to hack the terminal and give yourself infinite stamina. Using this, you can spam dash and fly out of bounds, which kicks you for cheating. Except no it doesn't, this kick message is actually just really realistic. After this, you're sent to a mysterious sky area, and someone tells you to escape by finishing the pick-a-paths and obbies with very limited vision. After getting to the end, you can hack another terminal for stamina, which you can use to fly through this small lava section and enter the void. In the void is the mega token, but right before you can collect it, you're sent to a forced boss fight with a spooky evil void guy. It's a boxing match like every other, but he's using bombs, fire, and a katana, so he's completely cheating. Unfortunately for him, he's so bad that you can still beat him within a few tries, as long as you have practice from the regular token. The difficulty of these quests are still much higher than I'd prefer, but the effects and the design of these boss fights are really impressive, and with practice, the bosses are kind of doable anyway, so I would say it definitely improved from its quest in the games. Fisch is a game that I totally expected to see in this event due to its immense popularity and quality. The regular token for Fisch was to catch 10 fish, buy 2 bait crates which are really cheap, and travel to an Easter-themed event island to talk to this bunny. I didn't find any problems with this quest, but I'm sure it would have been a lot more tedious if I didn't already have a boat to get to the event island faster. Fisch's mega token is pretty special because it was actually the last mega token in the event. You can talk to this NPC in the back of the spawn island called Moosewood, and he tells you that he senses something mega and that you need to find it. On the back of another island called Terrapin, you can find a quick secret minigame to unlock a secret cave. To get through this cave, you have to traverse through a timed maze. The final section of the cave has a pool, a door with 8 holes, an altar, and most importantly, a monster who gives you a small tune. Catching fish in the pool and holding these fish up to the altar will play a specific note depending on which of the 8 fish you caught. Cthulhu's tune also uses these same notes, and if you match the tune with the fish's notes and place them in the correct order on the wall, the door opens to reveal the final mega token. This was a great quest, but the atmosphere of it all was ruined due to its placement in the hunt. Because it was the final token, the peacefulness of the quest felt more off-putting than anything. If this was somewhere near the beginning or middle of the mega token order, I think it would have played much better. Car Crusher's quest got off to an amazing start with its regular token. This one had you do a bunch of different things like playing derbies, upgrading your car, and practicing stunt jumps, which eventually leads to you climbing up and trick jumping off of a massive volcano. The whole process took longer than most regular tokens, but the tasks always had you jumping around doing different things, so it never really got boring. To be fair, I did play this one at 3 AM, so it might have been worse than I remember, but if this ranking was only focusing on regular tokens, this game still probably would have landed in 1st or 2nd place. However, its mega token quest was not ideal. There's a random hidden door that you can find under the lobby in the OG area, which feels like a really weird place to hide it, especially because there's nothing hinting at it being there at all. In the room, there's a small conspiracy board with the main image in the middle talking about how someone won their first derby. So, in the derby winner area, there's a small key you can click on the background and use to start the last puzzle. These images are pictograms of the different crushers in row 1 of the normal area. So, if you play through all of the crushers in this row, then surely you should be able to get the mega token. Except no, you can't, because 2 of the crushers have to be done in a different way. The freezer can only be done in the OG area, and the avalanche can only be done by finding a random hole in the ground really far out in the main lobby. After finding these 2 exceptions, you can open the vault door to the left and collect the mega token with no other challenges, which is kind of anticlimactic. This game did great with its regular token, but fell off in the placements due to its weird and quite possibly rushed mega token. World Zero is such a cool game. It follows the same theme of a traditional open-world RPG, with a huge map and tons of things to do. Sadly, this game's regular token quest didn't explore these concepts at all. You get to go through a special dungeon with a few enemies, eventually leading to a final boss. It's really fun to go through and very beginner-friendly, but I think it's a bit too beginner-friendly. The dungeon is short, with enemies being very sparse, and getting healing items is completely trivial. I never got lower than 2/3 health the entire way through, even though there's a boss fight at the end. Despite this, it was still enjoyable to play, and the decoration is unlike any other game I've seen on Roblox. The mega token takes things a little further, with map exploration and fighting being explored much better. First, you have to go through a traditional collectathon, finding 3 crystals throughout the main area. The map is huge, so finding them without a tutorial is pretty crazy. After finding these crystals, a small door near spawn opens, revealing a mysterious puzzle with various different buttons, numbers, symbols, and a broken portal acting as a centerpiece. It's a bit overwhelming at first, but I honestly think this puzzle is one of the best in the event. It's vague, but not too vague to the point where it's unfair. While playing through these games, I tried to solve as many mega token puzzles as possible without a tutorial, and this was one of the few that me and my friend were actually able to solve without any help. After solving it, the portal is magically rebuilt, sending you to another dragon boss fight. The design of the arena is amazing, but the hitboxes felt really jank, and the attacks got really repetitive after a while. After defeating him, you can collect the Mega Token as a dungeon reward. I have nothing much to note about this game besides the fact that I'm a little disappointed World Zero opted to go for mainly linear progression instead of an open world thing that makes their game unique. It was still fun, but it could have been so much better. I've had a pretty bad experience with this game from the classic event and the few times I've tried to play it, but this quest was actually much better than I expected once I figured out what to do. The only reason I never liked this game was because there is effectively no tutorial. If you haven't played a Dusty Trip before, every run you spawn in with a broken car and you're supposed to rebuild the car with zero instructions on how to do so. It took me and my friend 7 minutes to successfully build the car and begin driving, but that's probably because we've both had too much pride to look up a tutorial on how to get past the tutorial. After we got everything working, the game was actually really fun. You have to drive to 3 different key locations, each one with a different boss fight. They all have their own unique attacks and give you a gun to make sure you don't get softlocked. It was fun, but the game is really janky, which is fine to a certain extent, but there were some things that were really annoying. The Mega Token also starts in the same map. A little bit before the first boss, you can find a small obby off to the side with an altar and 11 battery things scattered around. You have to bring all of these batteries one by one to the top of the obby and place these on the altar to create a portal. This is already tedious enough, but it's accentuated by the fact that if you hold these batteries for more than a few seconds, they explode and knock you and itself all the way down, which doesn't do anything fun besides making you let go of it and pick it back up over and over. After finishing the portal, you're sent to a small area, and after a little cutscene, a boss fight begins. It's very similar to the other 3, but way longer and marginally more difficult. It gets repetitive after a while because every phase repeats the same attacks with slight alterations, but it's still fun to dodge them. If there wasn't a way to cheese 90% of the boss fight by just standing on this piece of rubble. Because most of the attacks target the ground, the only attack that can still damage you while you're standing on this is the zombie attack, but they're really easy to kill anyway. After defeating the boss, he hinted at a potential sequel and you get the Mega Token. This game had a really good quest, but the execution felt a little off, and the absence of a tutorial makes it difficult for new players to try. Of course, this could just be a huge skill issue, but who knows. I'm not surprised that Spongebob Tower Defense got in the event and that it did this good, because I'm pretty sure it's a corporate game. The regular token quest was to play a special map and complete 15 rounds, which wasn't too hard, but also not baby easy either, which is nice. The Mega Token in this game is particularly special because it was the first Mega Token of the event. In the same game, you can find buried treasure that gives you a map telling you to go to a pirate ship. There's one main pirate ship in this game, being the trading area, so you have to head there. On the ship, you can sneak into the captain's quarters, complete a huge maze, and find a secret map before you're stopped by the evil Fisch skeletons and sent into another tower defense game. This one is much harder, with the map opening up 2 other alternate paths for enemies to come from as the game progresses, making defense much more strategic than just spamming the same good tower. After defeating the final boss on round 20, named Smitty Werbenjackman Jensen, you can go back to the original regular token map and enter a small cave to meet with chronologically the first real puzzle in the event. You're told to let your feet move true on the pedestal, which just means to do an emote, so not really a puzzle. After hitting the best emote of all time, the door opens and you can claim the first Mega Token. My only issue with this game's quest was the imbalance of difficulty. The regular token tower defense game was decently easy, the maze was really easy, the Mega Token game was surprisingly difficult, and the last puzzle was also easy. Despite that, this quest was still really in-depth, fun, and high quality, and I think it set a great starting point for all 24 other Mega Tokens that came after it. Right above Spongebob Tower Defense, we have the better version of Spongebob Tower Defense. Just like STD, wait, this is not a good acronym. Just like before, Tower Defense Simulator's regular token quest was to complete a simple 15-round game. The game is high quality, the towers and upgrades are interesting and encourage different playsets, and the difficulty was good. The Mega Token quest was surprisingly almost the exact same. Multiple tiny blue letters have spawned around the main lobby, and if they are unscrambled, they can spell out Red Cliff Falls. If you put this code into a code pad in the crate area, it unlocks a new difficulty of the regular token game, Mega Mode. And it's just another tower defense game with 20 rounds this time. Unfortunately, the difficulty was not as good. It was extremely difficult, to the point where some people on my team who were over level 250 still struggled quite a bit. Luckily, there is a duos and trios option, so you can get carried, but this still relies on the luck you get with good teammates. In trios mode, the final boss had 240,000 health, which is absolutely ridiculous. After beating this difficulty, you can claim the Mega Token. This quest is honestly kinda lame. The only new thing they added for the Mega was the small letter puzzle in a slightly different version of an already existing difficulty. Apparently the developers of this game were planning to add more content, but they ran out of time and had to settle with this. I can't confirm any of that, but even despite that, this game really is just fun to play, with or without the token quests. For a well-polished, well-made game, I think it still holds up better than most of the other games in the event, even though it dipped down in quality for its mega token. Regretevator was a very simple quest, but surprisingly really good. Once again, the regular token is boring, being to win 7 rounds, which in this game are the different floors you travel to. Unlike many other games, I really don't think this is a bad thing, because this game is just really good. The mega token started with pressing this button behind the TV, which unlocks an attic with an 8-digit code pad. In each of the various different floors, there is now one glowing blue item you can pick up. 4 encrypted hard drive things also spawn around the lobby, which are easy enough to find. Once you find all 4 hard drives and 4 of the glowing blue items, you're given clues to find decoders for each of the drives, once again hidden around the lobby. Once finding 4 of each of these items, you can decode the drives by playing a few easy minigames to get 4 different sets of 2 numbers. If you input all of these 8 numbers into the 8-digit code pad in the attic, you can receive the mega token. It's definitely on the simpler side, but honestly, I really liked it. This is one of the few games I did with the team, since this was in the final time lock, and our team was one of the first to solve this. For its simplicity but overall high enjoyability, I think this game really deserves 3rd place. Out of every other game to be in a Roblox event, Arsenal is easily the game with the highest standards from the community. Every other quest they've done for these events were always one of the best, if not the best. And that's why I was really surprised to see that Arsenal's regular token, all things considered, was kinda lame. This year's quest is a continuation of their quest in the Hunt First Edition, but it really doesn't add anything new. You spawn in immediately with some dialogue recapping what happened last year, and it's just more of that. Shoot enemies to get through the rooms and escape. I think it was excusable last year because the first edition was the first event of its kind, and going through a building to destroy a helicopter is way more interesting than escaping from it, especially because this year the length is cut down by a significant amount. The actual traditional shooting portion is less than 6 minutes long, and the remainder is a small prison escape sequence that takes even less time. Although I will admit that the transition between these two things is really funny.
I like it, coach.
So obviously the regular token isn't the reason this game is 2nd place. It's the mega token. There's a bit of text to the side in one of the first rooms telling you to look where gamers never do. So of course, you look up, and there's a target you can shoot, which sends you to a small puzzle to unlock a hidden laboratory with papers around the area. It's not really a puzzle since the full instructions are around the lab, and they all lead you to be able to create a headset. Once you put it on, you're teleported to the main show. An entire mini RPG game complete with different attacks, characters, enemies, and secrets. If you're not skipping through everything, the whole game takes about an hour to complete, but I think it gets away with the length due to the nature of the quest. There's not much specifically to talk about here because it really is just a simple, good RPG. However, when it was first released, soft locks were very common, and due to its length, they were also very annoying because progress didn't save if you had to leave. I was lucky enough to only get soft locked once, but I still lost 40 minutes of progress, which is really annoying. Either way, this game had amazing quality, gameplay, and creativity, placing it at number 2 on the list, only beaten by Of course, Untitled Tag Game is the best one in the event. The game itself is already really fun and silly, so I wasn't very surprised to see that it did so much better than any other game. Unfortunately, its regular quest was pretty boring, being to get $350, which is obtained by tagging people, staying alive, or winning rounds. Like Regretevator, I think this quest works for this game because just playing it without any modifiers is still really enjoyable. To make it even better, this quest acts as a great open-ended tutorial, as instead of having to do specific tasks, all you really have to do is play the game. The mega token starts off completely different, spawning one portal on each of the various different maps. Finding and entering this portal sends you to a different futuristic area taken over by a big business. This quest sends you through a super cool multi-step heist to take over and shut down this huge company building. There are so many different little details and gameplay aspects, and I want to go over this whole quest or else I feel like I wouldn't be doing this game justice. You spawn into what I assume is a working chamber similar to IOI's chambers in Ready Player One, and the big boss CEO guy tells you he has a special mission for you. Using a computer in your cell, you can control a drone and check on 5 different workers in similar chambers. After doing this, you can break the glass to your own chamber and glitch the computer into giving you access to the break room. Inside the room, you can use a screwdriver to get into the vents and enter the reactor section of the building, where the main portion of the heist takes place. The employee working here gives you a map and a rundown of what you need to do to overheat and destroy the entire system, because she hates her job, I guess. You'll need to sneak past guards in the communications room and pick up an authorization card on the way to open the airlocks and enter the maintenance sector. Here, you need to override both the aerator power and the coolant redirect. Both of these sections have a small parkour course utilizing this game's main movement mechanics, with a button at the top that you can press to shut that part of the system down. Once you've pressed both of these buttons, the tram will unlock due to a catastrophic coolant error, and you can travel to the turn-by power room, where you'll need to complete a small puzzle to turn them all on at once and overheat them. This took me longer than I'd like to admit. Anyway, now that you've shut down practically the entire system, your only mission is to get the token and leave. You try to run back to the tram, but the power source in the middle, now pulsing red, sucks you into a strange pocket dimension. Suddenly, the CEO appears along with the Mega Token, and you manage to grab it before him before getting pulled back into the room you started in, now in ruin. With fire and debris surrounding you and an amazing intense song in the background, you have to quickly find a way to escape. Right before the reactor melts down, bringing the entire building with it, you defenestrate yourself and find yourself on top of a building. Now that you're out, all you need to do is run for your life. I don't think my writing skills are good enough to describe just how amazing this final chase sequence is, so I'm just going to show you. I don't think this is a very controversial opinion when I say that this is easily the best quest ever made for an official Roblox event. There is so much detail and thought put into this entire thing. Like, there were 9 songs made for this singular quest, and they're all awesome. The atmosphere, story, quality, and pretty much everything else about this quest is absolutely phenomenal. I have 0 critiques. This is the game I was talking about earlier in Fisch. This is the game that should have been the final quest in the event. This was the perfect ending. A great game, a great storyline, and a dramatic but satisfying finish. This game is peak. The Hunt Mega Edition probably had the best roster of games out of any of the previous events, which I appreciated as someone who's played all of the main 4. Something I did notice, however, is that the quests weren't really much better than the other events, but they just had a smaller range of quality. Besides a few outliers, all of the quests stayed around the same level of fun as opposed to the other events, which were all over the place. Because of this, it was never really a mystery about how good these quests would be when going into them, so there wasn't really any disappointment. Except Pressure. I had high hopes for that one and it really pissed me off. I still think this event had the best games yet, and I really hope Roblox continues to pick actual high quality games instead of Despite me saying in the intro that I'm only going to be talking about the games itself in this video, I still want to go over how the whole event played out, because that's definitely an important factor. This was a very chaotic event. Obviously, the prize of $1 million caused a lot of commotion, arguments, and of course, cheating. As someone who only really wanted a decent spot and not a top 10 spot, I was never too competitive, usually lagging behind a few games from the main hunting group, except for the last time gate. I ended up joining a team with a dozen or so active players with the communal goal of getting one person on the team in the top 100. This did not turn out how anybody wanted. Like I mentioned earlier, Pet Simulator completely ruined the most intense mode of the event, which was really disappointing. After wandering around mindlessly for 2 hours trying to solve the puzzle, I ended up just going to bed disappointed and finishing the rest of the games in the morning. A lot of people assumed that these big teams were cheating, or at least had some sort of insider information, but I really doubt it. Roblox is a multi-billion-dollar company, and I would be really surprised if someone managed to cheat into the top 10 and get away with it. Either way, I feel like the whole outcome of this event really was disheartening. Even from the start, I knew that the choice to add a literal $1 million prize would change the vibe of the event drastically. Previously, the events were mainly about exploring and learning about interesting new games from a variety of different genres to unlock unique avatar items and fun collectibles. There was always a leaderboard, but there was never any pressure to get on it since there wasn't any reward, so there wasn't as much competition. If you wanted to get a high spot, you probably could, and if not, then that was fine too. You got to go at your own pace and do the games you wanted to do. Unfortunately, the Hunt Mega Edition completely turned the tables on this simple yet effective system. Now, the leaderboard was the main attraction, and if you wanted to play the event the way it was meant to be played, you had to speedrun and play every single game. Now, exploring the games you're put into is more of an unnecessary side quest since that would waste time. If you did want to speedrun, you now have 1,000 times more competition, and teams are basically required for a good spot. There's no longer that freedom of pace and choice that you had. The constant pressure of having to speedrun as fast as you can and complete every single game and go for the $1 million prize made it a lot less fun and a lot more stressful, at least for me. Either way, I think the games as a whole were great, but some improvements definitely need to be made for next time. That's all for now. Good night, everyone.